Fisker Ocean. Worth the wait? Worth the hype? I'm thinking yes.
It looks very beefy here in the front. I think it looks super cool.
Look at this. Come on.
And on paper, it looks pretty good.
It's just really cool.
This is a serious attempt to try and manufacture an all-electric SUV for a reasonable price, and on paper it looks pretty good.
Looks on the face of it like a pretty ordinary mid-sized electric car, but it's got some interesting features.
Number one, outstanding design. Number two, some really fun gadgets and gizmos. And number three, as I alluded to, potentially staggering value for money. And that's before we get into the whole sustainability of it. And just a little bit of backstory very quickly. This is, of course, a new car from Henrik Fisker. It's the second car brand to come from Henrik Fisker, the legendary car designer who's brought us some of the most beautiful cars of the 21st century, BMW Z8, Aston Martin DB9, you may have heard of them. And his first attempt at a car brand was sadly not long for this world, but they were working on some pretty maverick stuff that was fairly ahead of its time. The 2011 Fisker Karma was the first premium electric car, predating even the Tesla Model S.
It looks very beefy here in the front. I think it looks super cool in the front end. We have this massive, still Fisker grille here, as you can see. The trademark Fisker grille is still here and intact, even though it's a little toned down. And then we have these cool headlights.
Who gave an SUV the right to look this good? You can certainly tell that the man in charge is a car designer, because it is boxy and chunky and muscular and brawny, and I think it looks fantastic. Even in fire truck red, I think this is exactly how I'd have mine. I love the super slim headlights. They're even slimmer across the back. I love this sharky, squared off nose at the front. The only thing I'm not crazy about is this section here, which is kind of a bit faux grilly. It's a bit kind of ice car derivative, but when it looks this good, I'm prepared to forgive.
Let's have a look at the side view before we have a look at the rear. What I like here is they made it an SUV, and they made it look like an SUV, and they also, in the same way that they made it look like an SUV, they also reduced a lot of weight from this design. What I mean by that is this whole bottom part here is all black, and you have these black fenders as well, cladding right here. What this does is just to remove weight from the overall shape of the car. So you actually, you kind of perceive this car as being a lot shorter than what it actually is, because we have this graphic being black, and on top of that, the entire roof here, as you can see, the greenhouse, going from the A-pillar all the way back to the end is all blacked out as well, which further reduces the weight of this car.
Coming around the side, again, it's toy car proportions. Look how high the shoulder line is. Look at the wheels. These are 22s that you get on the launch spec, recycled carbon inlays, but despite the 22s, look, you've got a good bit of chunky tire on there as well. Normally it's just a kind of little slip of rubber around the outside, but a nice bit of squish there. These are special tires just for the Fisker Ocean, and they have an emphasis on sustainability, just like the rest of the car. So lots of natural rubber and recycled goodness in the tires as well.
It comes with a solar panel on the roof. Now you might, if you know this car, you might have read that about it. You only get it if you have the top of the range one. So if you're spending £60,000, you get an EV with a solar panel on the roof, which is, you know, what people have been asking for, isn't it? Why on earth don't they put solar panels on those electric cars so they charge themselves? Well, the reason is because solar panels generally are heavy and expensive and not worth the power that they would add to an electric car if you did that. I mean, now, evidently, they're lighter and maybe worth adding. This one, Fisker reckons, maybe adds 1,500 miles to the range of this car over a year if it's parked somewhere sunny.
As for boots, a very ample 476 litres, no lip whatsoever, nice big square opening. This is a nice touch. We've got a domestic power point just here to run your bits and bobs off. Likewise, you'll be able to fit an adapter to the charge port to do the same.
And just a quick word on the battery options for the Fisker Ocean, because both are remarkable for different reasons. The entry-level Ocean Sport, which starts at around 36 grand, comes with a 75 kilowatt-hour usable pack, good for 273 miles WLTP range. That puts it roughly in line with a Kia Niro, Renault Megane and base ID4, although it's cheaper and much bigger than the first two, and substantially rangier than the latter. Meanwhile, the Ultra and Extreme versions of the Ocean come with a whopping 106 kilowatt-hour pack, good for 440 miles.
So, you know, we launched the Fisker Ocean here at the LA Auto Show, and we are aiming for this to be the world's most sustainable vehicle. So we got a lot of recycled materials inside. For example, all the carpets are made from recycled plastic bottles and fishing nets from the ocean. But of course, another important aspect of this vehicle is it's fun to drive. It's got some exciting features nobody else has. So for example, we have the world's longest range for an EV or crossover in this price range. Yeah. So the top has 350 mile range in the US EPA range. And then we got the base vehicle, which starts at $37,500, which has a 250 mile range.
Interior of the Fisker Ocean. This is all new to me, because when we had the first look at this car at Goodwood last year, it didn't really have an interior. It was sort of just a design model. I'm not in it because this is a show car. I'm not allowed to climb inside. So, a couple of hours with it. What do we reckon? I'll tell you what, I'm pretty impressed. It's got its own distinct personality in here, which is rugged, chunky, effective, easy to use, easy to clean. I'll give you a few examples of what I mean. These gigantic, easy to press, massive buttons on the steering wheel are going to make a lot of people very happy. They used to say of old Range Rovers that they were designed to be operated wearing thick gloves, and you kind of get that same feeling in here with these big old chunky buttons. You're not going to press one by accident. They're not haptic. It's just easy. And likewise down here, this is going to make people very, very happy. We've got dedicated big clicky buttons for our volume, for our fan speed, for all the stuff that you would want big clicky permanent buttons for, like that. And that really sums up the personality of this interior. Material choice, it's not super premium. There's some plasticky stuff and some rubbery stuff. There's some fun stuff too. For example, we have this gigantic touchscreen, which at the push of a button can swivel and go into your cinema mode so that you can watch films in 16:9 while at the charging station. Actually not that fussed about this spinning screen, which is optional because it sort of protrudes a bit too much, so I can't really see part of it when it's in this mode. And also, what I've found, and this is a tall guy problem, when I'm driving, I'm slightly banging it with my knee and it moves a bit, and that makes me a bit nervous.
But what it does, when you're sitting in your car, plugged into a fast charger, waiting for an hour to fill the battery, you can put it into Hollywood mode, and it spins round and goes horizontal. And then you've got a 17-inch widescreen system that you can watch your favourite Netflix TV show on while you're waiting for your car to charge.
Taco tray, we've got to talk about that. I've never seen one of these before in a car. Look at this. Come on. Passenger gets one too, look. Look at that little laptop stand. I've just been jotting notes down for this video. I actually do write notes, you wouldn't believe it watching. That's quite a nice little touch. We've got some unusual little cubby storage bits under both seats. We've got big old pockets in the door, storage galore, headroom and space galore. It's a very, very roomy cabin, even for a car of this size. And just effective and chunky.
Another aspect of the car I'm hoping will quickly become tighter is the infotainment system. I like the simple design of the interface with big, chunky, easy to navigate menus matching the rest of the interior, but the software is extremely laggy and frustrating to use. Thankfully, Fisker assures us they're working on this avidly, but given that they've already begun delivering customer cars, this is one area that needs to improve a lot, very quickly, especially given the current absence of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay.
Backseat jack test. This is a biggie, this one, because have a look at this. Have a look at this, would you? Oh blimey. Oh blimey, I've got so much room. Floor isn't too high, knees aren't too high, headroom for days, even with this big glass sunroof and this big kind of beam that's going across the top just above my head. Very, very spacious, and California mode is even more delightful back here with this gigantic sunroof open. It's very roomy back here. This is nice as well, look, that pops down, a couple of USB-Cs just in there. I like this strip of fancy fabric that runs through the middle of the seats. Again, I like this material. It doesn't even feel like it's trying to be vegan leather. It's a bit wetsuity almost. It feels like it'll be very easy to wipe down and clean. I like these slightly woven floor mats, which again are entirely recycled.
The only thing I noticed that needed improvement was the door handle. It felt a little bit lightweight when I grabbed it, but it opened smoothly and my hand didn't get caught on it.
We've got 3 driving modes. They are called Earth, that's Eco, Fun, which is sporty, and Hyper, which is this one. Oof. You know, I've spent a few days in a Tesla Model S Plaid recently, and it has completely broken my brain as far as what constitutes fast. But even off the back of that, this feels quick.
So, you know how Teslas make that funny sort of reversing noise, that low speed safety noise? I think Johnny Smith referred to it as chorus of dead people, quite amusingly. Well, this makes its own noise, and it's a bit like somebody sort of tuning up a Fender Stratocaster or something. It's kind of like an electric guitar-y noise. I quite like it.
First impressions, it's nice and squishy. I had a suspicion that because this thing rides on 22s and in this top spec guise has some 560 odd horsepower and goes from 0 to 60 in 3 odd seconds and can do this. Yeah. I assumed based on all of those factors that this was going to be quite a taut, firmly sprung performance SUV, but actually no, they've really tuned it for comfort and squashiness, and again, even on those gigantic rims, there is a good bit of tyre around them, and the result is a lovely, comfortable ride. What is certainly not a gimmick, and what I am a very big fan of, is California mode. So we pull this back, we hold it, and 8 pieces of glass open. Both front windows, both back windows, both doggy windows in the boot, which the pups are going to go crazy for, the gigantic sunroof, and the glass in the rear hatch. I don't know why it makes me so happy that the glass in the rear hatch can drop down, but it do. And actually there's a button on the key where you can open just that, so you can just chuck your shopping in the back without having to open the entire tailgate. This, while driving slowly, is not a million miles away from being in a convertible. It's delightful.
But for the most part, I think the California mode is going to enable me to comfortably get everywhere I gotta go, no matter the craft, whether it be windsurfing, surfing, or stand-up paddling. You know, the sizes of boards vary. I think with the California mode and the option for racks as well, it's for sure gonna fit into my lifestyle.
So, Fisker Ocean, worth the wait, worth the hype? I'm thinking yes. It's so wonderful to see another car brand come along with sustainability at its core. It's not one of their key principles, it is the thing around which the entire company is built. They're building the greenest cars possible, they're showing everyone else how it's done, and they're doing it with this sense of real fun, with this kind of rugged, outdoorsy personality that's really, really appealing. Moreover, I think this car is really well judged to appeal to both the American and European customer, which is quite a hard thing to do because they are quite different. In the same way that the MG4 showed up and completely rearranged our idea of what we could reasonably expect from a sub 30 grand EV, I think this is going to do the same thing for the next category up, because there's nothing at this price point that gives you this much space, practicality, and style.
And I think it's a clean looking design, simple, clean, while still retaining a strong brand identity with the graphics in the front and the rear.
It's very grown up, it's very easy to drive, but it's comfy, it's fairly quiet, and it's practical. It isn't the most luxurious, rich, lavish sort of car. They sort of think the trappings of your old school luxury car brands might be sort of fading away slowly. They think people don't want them anymore. They think your electric car buyer of today is much more likely to respond to a sustainable model of building cars than they are to something that just feels a little bit more expensive.
it's that entry-level one that really stands out to me. 36 odd thousand pounds, 75 kilowatt hour battery, 270 miles of range. That's the car right there. A reminder, that is some £2,000 or £3,000 cheaper than an entry-level VW ID4, which has substantially less range and makes you want to give yourself a lobotomy with a teaspoon every time you go to change the volume.
So there's value in the entry-level model, and there's value in the twin motor model. This is at heart a pretty sensible car. It's a rational car. That's what it's about. It's about reassurance. It's got the range you need, it's got the space you need, it works, it will suit you, and that's the main thing.